Allie Dunn here, leadership coach and Enneagram expert on the topic of the Enneagram and relationships and how you can use the Enneagram to enhance your relationships, break down communication barriers, and really feel more connected to the people around you. And this isn't just about maybe your partner, right? Relationships can be your friendships, your family, and definitely your coworkers. Is it your boss? Is it your team? Is it your direct reports, right? Really starting to understand how you show up in the world based on your Enneagram type and also the way you like to connect with people. So if you are a 1 and you are a perfectionist, you may have a tendency for order and to kind of do the right thing. So there could be some other Enneagram types that you clash with. Sometimes a 1 and an 8 can have conflict because although they're both driven, their core motivation is different. And where an 8 might want to be in control, a 1 wants to do the right thing. So you have to understand that power dynamic. If you are a 2 in a relationship, a 2 really strives for connection. And if you are partnered with someone who doesn't value connection the same way that you do, you might feel isolated or you might feel alone. So the work is to kind of self-develop and trust yourself, love yourself, spend time with yourself so that you can find that compatibility with a different Enneagram type. If you are a 3 in a relationship, I do believe in this space, 3's opposite attracts. And I think this idea of 3 motivating for success, when you're with an Enneagram type that's less motivated by image or success, it can be really grounding and you can find that kind of inner peace and compatibility. The problem arises with the pace. As a 3, you might be moving too quickly and you might need your partner to kind of move at that space, right? So that self-awareness and that curiosity about striving will really help you feel more connected to someone. If you are a 4, you feel more deeply than any other Enneagram type. And so for you to be with someone who can't access their feelings is probably quite difficult. It may lead you to feel more isolated. So the work for the 4, if you are with someone who's maybe more, let's call it like cerebral or less attached to their feelings, is just really giving yourself a bit of freedom to not feel so deeply, right? What is it like to just be on the surface? What is it like to lighten up a little bit? But then with that, with your partner or boss, manager, whatever it might be, is also just acknowledging, right? If you can acknowledge that you feel deeply and you can start to work on how to levitate that a little bit, then I think you would notice a difference. If you're an Enneagram 5, you are very boundary heavy. You probably have a hard time accessing your emotions, and you may have chosen a partner who does the same because you feel safe when you're alone and your emotions are checked out, and your partner might be the same way. So for you, really leaning in with that partner and acknowledging that you have a hard time accessing your emotions could be a bonding space for you. If you are with a different Enneagram type, perhaps maybe it is like a 9. A 9 is going to be less conflict oriented. So you really have to work together to find that deeper connection and access that. Where if you're maybe with a 2 who's much more feelings oriented, finding that balance between giving each other space and then also being deeply connected will be the work that you need to do. If you are a 6, you enjoy kind of that team player, team environment. With a 6, because you may run at a low level of anxiety, you need a partner that really understands that a lot of your anxiety is not about them. So having those conversations where you're saying, I just need to feel safe, I just need to have the options before I proceed, will allow that partner to know that they really can't do anything to make you feel better, but it's like a process that you need to go through. And depending on the type that you're with, from a compatibility standpoint, I mean, in some ways, all Enneagram types are compatible. It's just in interesting ways, you may have to do more work. So if we think about the Enneagram itself and the way the 6 can lean into the 3 can be an interesting compatibility, or the 6 with the 9. And then if you're a 7, as that Enneagram type, sometimes you can avoid commitment because as a 7, you're desired to experience it all. And then when you're in a relationship, you can kind of shut down or sometimes not want to feel beholden to someone. So a 7 can be compatible with all types, but in order for a 7 to feel safe, they must have freedom. So it's kind of an interesting balance when you are dealing with different Enneagram types. And if you happen to be with the same Enneagram type, a 7 with 7, which would be my relationship status, you really have to work on leaning in to the relationship and holding each other accountable and following through. If you're an 8, you may be attracted to another style of kind of doer or competitive person, which might be a 3 or an 8, which can turn you into that power couple, but also can lead to a power dynamic, and you might see that in the boardroom as well. So thinking about your core motivation being control, and then your deep fear being vulnerability, in order for you to connect with a certain type of Enneagram, you must show vulnerability. Otherwise, you're not really gonna get to that next level in your relationship, and you're not gonna be able to open the barriers and break the barriers down for communication. And then as a 9, you are so easygoing that sometimes you can be self-forgetting. So as a 9 in a relationship, like 2 9s, for example, are kind of leading these 2 separate lives where they're really struggling to hold each other accountable. So as a 9, if you're with a 9, you really need to talk about how you can lean in and build that trust and build that engagement, similar in the workspace. And then if you're with a different Enneagram type, it's just kind of understanding your blind spots. So in essence, all Enneagram types can be compatible, but the number one rule for compatibility is self-awareness. So your first step, whether it's understanding your Enneagram type or doing the work, you just need to know how you show up in this world and how people see you. You need to know your strengths, your challenges, and certainly understand your blind spots. In no way is anyone perfect. I think we're all on this growth trajectory, but the more that you can understand yourself and the more that you can understand the people around you, in some ways, the easier your life is, right? It's like more open discussions, less tension, less heaviness, less what am I making this mean, right? There's just kind of this path to clarity. And I can tell you the moment that I started to understand the Enneagram types of the people in my life, it was life-changing. And I was able to kind of like release these stories that maybe I had about either how I am in those relationships or how those people are. And I would highly recommend A, doing the Enneagram assessment yourself, and then B, having people around you do it as well.